Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Beyond Discoveries. Here's Flavia as usual, and today we got an amazing guest, a friend, a person that I've been knowing for years, and I'm so excited to ask him all sort of questions of things that hopefully he has never spoken about. He's going to give us some secrets. So we got here with us Team Jarvis. Hey Team, thanks for joining us.
Hi Flavia, good to be here.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, fine.
What I'm trying to understand, interviewing a lot of amazing people around the world, is something that we touched base just a minute ago talking. Explorers, are they born or made explorers? What is part of your soul that is so different from everyone else? When did it start? Tell me about young Tim, that realized that it was different. What is happening in the mind and the soul of people that go and discover?
Well, it's interesting because you don't really have, thinking of things as a scientist, you don't have a control group to compare with. There's only me. So I don't know how I would have turned out had I done things differently. But I grew up in Malaysia as a small kid, and it was jungle and wild dogs and monkeys and excitement. And parents, you just said, off you go and discover things and see you at 5 or whatever they said. And they left me to it. And I don't think they really understood the dangers necessarily. I think they still thought we were back in Europe. But anyway, whatever the case, I was 7 and I went off on a whole series of adventures. And I started to really enjoy my own resourcefulness that sort of emerged when I put myself in difficult situations. At the time, you'd think, oh, that was a bit scary. But then you thought, actually, I overcame that problem. And it became quite cool both to literally explore things, but also to see how you handled adversity and solve problems. And then I started to build confidence. And I've just done that ever since. And the expeditions have got bigger.
Bigger and more complicated.
But it's the same kid, really, in there.
You were 7, and I want to tell you something, Tim. This is not the first time in this podcast that someone tells me it started when I was 7. And my parents let me go. It's the second time that I see a trend like this of parents that allow kids to just go and discover and explore. I was 7 when my parents would let me go around these mountains when we were little, 7, 10, and watching at the stars and doing my things. I was number 4 or 5 kids. So by that time, my parents were like,
whatever.
Should be okay.
Yeah.
Is that something that we should look at? Do you think that there is an age between 7 and 11 in which kids are just full of maybe like a fear or full of, what they really feel, and we just have to let them go?
I think if you can capture that imagination in childhood, then it will naturally just fly. And you become an adult like yourself, who's just never really stopped exploring. We still have, if I can speak for both of us, we both have the same sort of childlike fascination of these things, and that's really
never stop.
All it is. Your skills improve, your knowledge improves, of course, but you're the same kid just wondering what you're capable of and what's around the next corner, and it's just something that just sort of keeps on going. I think more parents should allow their children to go out and actually
do things. Do you allow your kids to do that? Did you?
I really try. Things have changed.
It's hard.
Be the first to admit that. But I do really try to let them go and experience things. I try not to helicopter parent and tell them not to do things. I try to let them go and discover things for themselves. And
so in Malaysia, in the jungles, 7, 10 years old, going around, what did you learn there? What are the memories? What did you build there? A sense of what? A sense of unknown, a sense of discovery?
Sense of freedom in just experiencing things for myself, trying new things, seeing whether they work for myself, not learning it secondhand through somebody telling me what was possible, just really kind of doing it for myself. And you have a few scrapes I fell out of trees and broke arms and things like that. But at the end of the day, you really learn who you are and where your limits are. And if you feel like you want to push those limits, you just get the opportunity to experience it for yourself, and no one's really telling you what's possible.
Were you by yourself in those jungles?
A lot of the time, interestingly, I was. I had a thing called the Adventurers Club, and I had a little wooden sort of hut and a password and all that sort of stuff, maybe like other kids, but there was only one member and it was me. And I don't know who I was expecting to kind of
maybe bring some friends in the journey.
Try and get in, and there were other friends I did things with. But when it came to really going out and just exploring, I just really quite enjoyed my own company. And
are you an introvert? What have you learned about you growing up?
I can come across as very extroverted, but I think I do need that time to reflect. And so there's a funny balance of those two. And I've subsequently gone on to do polar expeditions on my own. And I find that, again, I go back to that state of saying, well, here I am, my old friend, and have a little internal conversation. Little internal conversation goes on, not a literal one, obviously, or sometimes. And you think, right, here I am again. At the limits of what I think I'm capable of. Let's see where this goes.
Do you have a team? Like, we're going to talk about what happened between the 7 to your polar expeditions, but traveling by yourself and doing all the things that you've done that you will tell us about, do you work with a team or is just yourself? How does it work? Like, are there people following you from far or is just team with team?
Well, I think the expeditions over the years have just really varied. I've done some solo things. I've done team expeditions. Team expeditions can be, of course, completely different because you're not just relying on yourself, and that can bring positives, but also challenges because you've got to motivate other people. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you're pleasantly surprised and sometimes you're not. And, there's all sorts of challenges. I think on balance, I've really come to enjoy the team dynamics with people. Frankly, I couldn't have done my Shackleton expedition without a big team of people. I may have been the leader of the expedition, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't have been possible without a big team of people. And I suppose to an extent, there's always someone behind you, isn't there? Whether it's your parents giving you the opportunity or a sibling or a friend or a teacher at school who sees potential and maybe sees you learn slightly differently and to just cut you a bit of slack so that you can...
Did you have that teacher?
I think so, yeah. I went to school after Malaysia in Singapore, and the school was all about experiential learning.
Amazing.
Sort of Duke of Edinburgh type of stuff. Learning by doing, leadership, environmentalism, before it was really a thing. And I never realized... I was asked to do a talk at one of the reunions for the school 30 years later, showing my age, 30 years later, and they had a statement put out by the patron of the school.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asked to do a talk, and I had to read out her statement first. And her statement said, what we try to encourage is kids to take a few risks and learn by doing. They were all the things that I thought made me kind of unique, but I realized actually they were the sort of the modus operandi of the school. They were what they were trying to create. So maybe I'm just a product.
This is make me think about something like, yes, you were, you had a family that allowed you to go. You had an environment in which you could discover. There was some love for unknown. There was school in which you were set for success for an explorer's soul. But I'm pretty sure there is more. Like, I'm pretty sure not all those students at Singapore school in your class became who you became. I think some of them became accountants and lawyers and engineers, and I stayed inside a door all the time, inside a room.
Yeah.
What else is in you? What else?
There's a nature and nurture.
Is some DNA,
to this for sure. My mother used to joke that my father only went camping once and he wore his pajamas on that occasion and never did it again. And so she said, well, it obviously doesn't come from him.
What about her?
But he took risks in his own way. He was a working class guy from London, North London, very poor family, worked very hard, took a few risks, said yes to everything, and lifted himself up. And that gave me opportunity. So I see a lot of the things in the way that he operated, even though he never saw it in himself. He was always a very modest guy, never like that, but he was also very difficult to impress. And so, without coming up...
Did you manage to impress him with all the things you have done in your life?
Look, he only ever said that to my sons. Never really told me. Couldn't quite bring himself to tell me, but he told my sons, and my sons said, oh, your dad thinks...
I think the example, in our lives, as entrepreneurs, as explorers, as big Peter Pans, kids see this. Like our kids see that sense of freedom, the sense of no fear, try. Also, it's standing up when you fail. Like how many times have you failed? So many, I guess. I failed many times, but go ahead. That's amazing lessons.
Yeah,
so your dad did that to you, probably, right?
Yeah, well, I guess you live with him, right? So you see the way he handles adversity and the way he functions, and he would never think that there was any lesson being learned by me, but I think, there was a bit of swearing and there was a bit of, but he dusted himself off and just kept going with things and applied himself. And I witnessed that. And that combined with the fact that he was quite hard on me, and I thought, okay, I got to keep lifting my game here.
I got to go to Antarctica. I got to go to the Arctic. Otherwise, okay. So yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah.
So tell me about when team decided, when was your first expedition? How old were you?
Well, I've been doing them all the way through, and when you really look at it, they've all been little mini expeditions, mini things. And you're on your own. You have to take what you need. You think if you get into trouble, there may not be support, and there are others who maybe are working behind the scenes to help you get to the start line. But at the end of the day, it's sort of on you as to whether you make it a success. And I mean, that's really a definition of an expedition. So I started off small, and they just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, at university, I was the head of the outdoor activities club, and we used to misspend the money on climbing ropes and beer and various other things.
What did you do at university?
So I did geomorphology first of all, which is like a physical geography, geology type of undergraduate degree.
So you like Earth?
I like Earth, and I was fumbling around trying to find something that combined my interests in the outdoors and literal exploration and personal
ambitions,
freedom and journeying with something that was sort of to do with safeguarding the planet. But when I did my first degree, there wasn't really environmental science as a degree you could just pluck off the shelf and do. So I had to sort of make it up. And so I looked back and realized that physical geography and geomorphology was sort of the closest I could get. And then I did a master's in environmental science.
Beautiful.
That stage, okay, things had moved on. And then I did environmental law, not because I wanted to be a lawyer, but because I dealt with lawyers all the time in trying to sort out environmental issues. And so I felt
I better become a lawyer and make it happen.
I better understand at least what they're talking about, because I couldn't follow them. And so it's just been
unbelievable,
a journey. Yeah.
Who supported you the most through this moment? Like there was who was it? Was it friends? Was it family? Was it your wife? Was it just you? They were like, oh, what's the next thing? And the next thing is always going ahead. Was it just you?
I think the more you learn about yourself, the more you realize your strengths and weaknesses. And I think I'm someone who's good at taking disparate pieces of information and sort of putting those together and making them greater than the sum of their parts or something. And that sounds very corny to say that, but I think it's what makes expeditions successful, because you can see how things fit together. It's kind of what makes social entrepreneurialism, that I suppose I do, successful, because you can see how to meld things together. And so in life, I don't think anybody sat me down and said, now look, Tim, you've got some potential. I just picked up little pieces of information, little cues, and thought,
follow your
she
instinct.
said, he said, I didn't do well at that, did a bit better at that. That worked, that didn't. Where is this all sort of heading? How can I pattern make and turn this into something bigger? But I don't think there was a sort of a epiphany with one.
It wasn't
conversation.
There wasn't, not even with me. Like when people ask me who was your hero, mentor, person that changed it.
Everyone.
I don't know.
Everyone and no one. Yeah.
Everyone and no one.
Yeah.
And sometimes it also feels like no one. Sometimes when I think about my love for space and my love for building things for space or going to space, it feels like I was born with it. Like it's in your DNA. You don't even know why you have it. You know that you're going to make an impact, and you keep going. And there are people that just shape you a little bit, but most of the time it's on your shoulders and it's just your own path.
That's right. I'd love to think it was, I picked up a book by Nelson Mandela and suddenly I had enlightenment. I was just sort of, you know,
A guy putting one step in front of the other.
It's like musicians say, where did that song come from? And they say, well, it was probably all the songs that have ever been written, all out there already. I just the one who discovered it, and there's something in that, you probably had it within you, but it's that journey of personal discovery to sort of find it, and you have to follow the cues, take risks. And that's how you turn what was probably always present within you into something that is manifests.
That is sometimes worth changing.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell me about, so we have a photo of you that we have in all our presentations, and probably you don't know, but we will look at you every day, okay? We talk a lot about tools for explorers. Like exploration has been in the nature of humankind since always. Like, it's not just me and you in 2025 exploring the space, exploring Earth. It's humankind. It's that search for known. What fascinates me is the different tools that we have. A lot of people ask me, would you go to space if you could? I would. I would go to Mars if I could, if I had the chance.
Yeah.
And they're like, aren't you scared? And I say, going to Mars means having great tools around you. You got a great spacecraft that is probably working really well. Food, like doctors and GPS and all amazing things. And then you look back at the tools that people had when they discovered the Americas, and they had a boat, not even really safe.
Yeah.
And like the tools were
rudimentary,
very good for that time. So at that point in time, I always talk about the fact that Christopher Colombo, when he went to the America, he started using these boats, La Nina, La Pinta, Santa Maria. And for the first time, this boat had a very special sails that could actually bring them across the ocean. It was very high tech at that time. Very high tech. But if we look back, for us was like, I would have never done it. Like with a boat like this for 6 months. So the more you look at the past of explorers or different tools, the more I find it fascinating. Like, how brave would that people be? Like, it blows my mind. So you have looked into tools a lot. Like, how can you redo a mission without different tools? And like, what does that mean for you? Like, are the tools that make the explorers, or the explorers doesn't need tools? Like, what's your philosophy?
Well, they talk about those explorers from that early period, and the iron people, wooden boats. So this is the sort of expression. And I suppose to an extent they didn't know what they didn't know, and so as far as they were concerned, a different shaped sail or a different shaped hull, or discovering that eating fresh meat or lime would prevent scurvy that they didn't really even understand. I mean, all of that stuff was they were just working it out as they went along. When I did 2 expeditions the old way, I mean, I'd done lots wearing Gore-Tex jackets and with GPS and all the sort of bells and whistles. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to see how a 21st century person could handle
that type of tools? That's the photo that we have everywhere.
Going back. And it's really interesting. There's two issues you have. Well, there's 3. One is you're using equipment that is not as good. That's the first thing. Secondly, you're not familiar with that technology like they were, because they used it all the time. So traditional navigation in a boat, they were used to getting a sextant out and looking at the stars or the sun and getting their nautical almanac out and working it all out. We didn't grow up with any of that sort of technology, so you've got to learn it. And the third and most difficult one is the psychological disadvantage of knowing that you've got equipment that could do the job much better, but you're deliberately
not using
depriving yourself of it. And that is a really tricky one to handle, because you think, if we had lights, if we had GPS, if we had waterproof clothing, if we had
I would feel better.
Food, I'd be doing this much more safely. And so you're deliberately disadvantaging yourself, and that starts to eat away at your morale and your morale. And the only way to do it is to deliberately. This is where another aspect of being human is very useful. We have such short memories for things that once you've in the case of a guy growing a beard and you haven't washed for a while and you're wearing the old clothes, and you look at someone else wearing the same clothes and with their beard, and they start to look like those heroic figures of the old days, and then you start treating them like they are those figures, and they do the same to you, and that instills a sense of pride in the uniform almost that you're wearing, and you feel you need to live up to the standards they set. And so something strange goes on. After a while, you find you forget you're from the 21st century, and you start to
adapt.
You just start to adapt. Yeah,
I think it's we if I think about fleet and trying to give, we talk a lot about youth because we talk about giving new tools to explore, new tools. What I've learned about explorers in general, like in my word, in other words, is like think about what we are saying about going to space and how comfortable it is right now, in a sense. I'm pretty sure if I close my eyes and look in 200 years, people will look back and say, I can't believe people jump in that spacecraft to go to Mars.
Yeah.
Now we can, jump in this type of space where it's just so amazing. It takes 1 hour. And we look back at this point in time and thinking, that's insane. Okay. Yeah. The reality, there are some facts that are true. Like all tools sometimes are uncomfortable. They are uncomfortable. Like they make you feel cold. You don't reach the same objectives. You could hurt yourself more. Like all parallelism. Like there is some facts that if there is a new tool, you should use it. So for me, it's fascinating that you actually experience something to say, hey, I want to go back to feel what that feels. And the biggest things that you felt is the psychological barrier of knowing, what am I doing to myself? I could be much warmer. I could be not that scared because I got a light. I could know where to go. And the things that really, really like about what you said is that humans, when we are used to technologies, when we are used to GPS, when we are used to, we don't look at the stars. We stop following our instinct. We lose our connection with nature.
It makes you go back to principles. I remember when my GPS ran out on an expedition done the modern way in 1999, and I got within 350 k's of the South Pole, and the GPS stopped working. Not enough coverage. It wouldn't initialize. Yeah. It just kept spinning and trying to find things, and it couldn't give me a location. So I just had to go back to principles, thinking, okay, the sun moves through in 24 hours. It goes round 360 degrees, 15 degrees an hour, starts off over there, or use my body a bit like a sundial. Means in 6 hours' time, it will have come through 90 degrees. My shadow should be pointing that direction. And then you start looking
angles,
at the
math,
ground.
Trigonometry. I was never good at trigonometry.
And it was the stuff that, I wasn't very good at it either, but I found myself thinking, I've got to go back to principles or I'm just going to get lost out here. And I started looking at the sastrugi, which is the wind-blown ice, which always trends in a certain orientation. And I thought, okay, I'm crossing that at this angle. If I start going off that, I know that I'm really going the wrong direction. And by this stage, I had about a 350k straight run to the pole. But if you miss it, if you start going off a couple of degrees at the beginning, by the time you get to the pole, you'll be 100k's to the north.
And that's it.
Everything's north.
Did you miss it?
I made it. I made it. And I made it the day that I thought I would make it. I got there about 2 weeks later. Based on the distances I had been traveling. I was so good at, by that stage, I traveled the same distance every day, didn't matter whether the weather was good or bad, to measure my effort. And I knew how much ground I was covering to within a K every day. And I thought, I've got to get there on day 16 or whatever it was, if I continue to travel at the pace I'm traveling at. And I've got to I had a compass, but the compass was on a harness that's moving around and,
oh my God.
And the day I thought I should see it, I looked out to the side of where I was heading and I saw what I thought were a collection of rocks. But there's no geology there. It's a 3 kilometer thick ice sheet. And so those rocks had to be the buildings at the South Pole.
Oh my God.
Base. And I quickly adjusted my compass to that. Aim for that. Then the weather descended into zero visibility for about 6 or 8 hours. And
but you kept going in that direction.
I kept following that exactly. And when the weather lifted again, those rocks were bigger. And then finally,
it's not a rock, it's a building.
It's a building, and I kept going and going and going. Didn't stop that day, in fact, to get to the.
And you got there. You know what I like about that? It made me think, like, you know, all those signals, like the wind on the snow, like all these details, despite the fact you didn't have GPS, despite the fact that the tools were not there, you knew those details. You know them, you knew them, you studied them, you have understood them. So are the best explorers the one that use the tools, plus they know how to live without the tools. Are the best explorers the one that got the right instinct? Because instinct is not about. I've learned a lot about instinct in business, in exploration, in discovery. And I always tell in this podcast all the time that your brain is an AI machine that gathers information at 360, not even 180, and sees things around you. And it's year of evolution. It's a computer that has been in the making for a long time. And we just get a little bit too far from it. But I think when you get in that situation where it's ambitions, goals, survival, there is an element of survival. I think the AI engine works, and it's like, okay, that's what I have to do. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, I think it's the most sophisticated bit of equipment, obviously, that you're going to use. So I think when you go back to basic principles, I thought, am I going to look at a little digital display that's not working properly? And in the extreme cold, by the way, the LED crystals in the unit don't work either. So you have to set the tent up to put it up, just to find it won't give you anything. And so you think, well, I'm going to have to remember year 11 maths or something. And you're just sitting in a tent on your own thinking, well, this is not good. And I have to say, fear is really right there.
Talk me about fear.
Right alongside you. Well, it's something you feel it all the time. There's fear of failing. There's fear of reputational damage. There's obviously the fear of
your life.
And you have to find some techniques to deal with it. You know,
how do you deal with it? What's your technique?
Well, after many years of doing it, I mean, when it first happens, to pretend that you don't feel it, it's a gut thing. You absolutely feel it. To get it under control, I've tried to convince myself, to the extent that I now sort of believe it. I think when I feel fear, it means I'm challenging myself. And if I'm challenging myself, it means I'm growing as a person, and that's why I'm here.
Up to something good.
And so fear equals a challenging situation equals me growing as a person. If I can overcome this thing, which is really about a journey of personal discovery. This is the logic framework that I operate under. So I think, here we are, my old friend again, fear. Right, here we go. This is not good. What can I learn from it? So I keep trying to turn it into a learning opportunity, just to put it in its box and not make it so scary, you know. And sometimes it works.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes you are in a state of controlling panic and just trying to work with it and just get on with the next thing. But the overall thing is that, you know, fear equals challenging yourself equals learning at some level, and that's what you're here to do.
Like it's a signal that is telling you, hey, this is new.
Yeah.
We are maybe a little bit out of our comfort zone. Like, this is new. This feels different. This is a new thing that we need to challenge and go through.
I think if it was easy, it wouldn't be.
Well, everyone will do it.
Yeah.
How many people have done the things that you have done? You can count them on two hands.
Yeah.
Fear is hard. Fear is hard to control.
Yeah.
I think the lack of fear is also really hard. Like, fear is good.
Fear is good.
Fear is good. Like, fear is good. Uncomfortable feelings are good. I'm a big fan of trusting the body signals in general. Again, because I trust the body. I'm a big fan of mental dynamics, not well understood. Like, we were talking coming here about depressions, all sorts of this mental anxiety. Those are signals.
Yeah.
Signals to your body that is telling you, hey, this is hard, or I don't feel good about this, and this instinct doesn't feel good. But tell me about exploring. Like, have you ever put yourself in a situation that you thought, I'm not coming home today because this is bad?
Many
times.
On the Shackleton trip, there were waves.
Maybe
that
too
almost
many.
capsized us. There was coming into the island we were trying to reach at the end of that journey in a small keelless wooden boat, and big sea and
that was a small boat and big sea.
Yeah, big sea.
And probably for a moment you thought, what was I thinking?
There were plenty of moments where I thought, why,
Tim, what are you doing?
Why did I say I was doing this again? But you're going to have those thoughts, and so you have a list of reasons in your mind that you kind of repeat almost like a mantra to convince yourself that, because you haven't got your mum and dad going, or isn't he done well?
He's going to be okay.
It's easy to be heroic in the media conference before you leave in Sydney or something.
Or at the end of the trip when you're home safe.
When you look
that
back,
was easy.
The key thing is keeping your race face on when things are not good, and just not panicking. Just thinking, okay, I knew I'd have moments like this. Just got to deal with it.
Yeah. Did you prepare for those moments then?
Well, I spent a lot of time training. It was a bit like a space mission, never having done a space mission. The closest I've got, which I'm very excited about, is working with Fleet. But, it's about trying to understand all of the things that could go wrong and trying to anticipate those things and think about what you're going to do when they eventuate.
And what I like is, you can prepare for all the scenarios. Okay, you can say, okay, what if I lose track or something happened or I hurt myself? But what you just said of your brain telling you, what are you doing? Like, this is not good. I'm stopping here. I'm freezing or I'm panicking. That is you against you. It's like you got your internal enemy. Like, it's not just the weather. It's not just the cold. It's not just the difficulties. You also have your internal voice trying to crack you.
Yeah, and look, it goes back to whether you are. I think expeditions, whether I'm sure it applies to space as well, and entrepreneurialism and polar exploration. You just have a really healthy lack of respect for, stopping. You just think, I'm not going to stop, and you almost lose. Self-delusion is a very useful thing. You convince yourself it's okay. You're still on track. Even though everything nature is telling you
but it
the
is
opposite, and the situation could be very bad, but you convince yourself just that everything is okay.
Is that convincing? Probably flushing your body with good chemicals and hormones that kept you going. Like, I'm fascinated by the chemistry of what happened when you've got fear, when you don't want to do something, and when you talk to yourself out of it. There is a bit of chemistry happening in your brain at the point in time, right?
Yeah.
It's self-preservation that kicks in when it stops you, but there's also all the other things that keeps you going. Like, the body is a machine. So it's always about chemical connections, instincts. It can be trained.
If you can convince yourself that any situation has something positive in it, I think you can almost trigger that chemical reaction.
Yeah,
So when the weather was good, we thought, oh, fantastic. The weather's good. Weather was bad. We thought, fantastic. This brings us much closer to what that early explorer experienced. So when we get back, people are not going to say you just had good weather.
That was easy.
Injury. Well,
they happen.
If I could do this with an injury, fantastic. If I can use my bush medicine skills to overcome this injury, which would have stopped most people, but I can keep going, isn't that fantastic? You can find just about any bit of adversity. You think, I bet people thought I would fold at this point, but I'm not going to. And when they look back at this,
I love what you're saying. Like, I would have never, I've never done. I mean, you do a already very complicated expedition that the average person would think, I would never do that. But in your brain, there's like, if I get injured or it's bad weather or something bad happen and I make it through, I'm double champion here. So let's go.
You've done even better. You've done it against all the odds.
Against all odds.
I remember there was a wonderful speech given by Henry V, Shakespeare, and it's the British up against a French army that's 3 times the size with horses and all that sort of thing. And he said, look, there aren't many of us. Just think of it like this. We may all die, but there are very few of us, and we're not going to have to share the glory amongst as many people. We few, we lucky few, we band of brothers. That's where that comes from, that wonderful, wonderful
It's that feeling.
speech, and he said, anybody wants to leave, you can go now, but the rest of you who stay, you're going to be one of the lucky ones who doesn't have to share the glory amongst many people. They'll be talking about you for centuries to come. And it was just such an incredibly powerful
It's true.
Speech. Yeah.
It is true. You see, like we talk about nature and nurture, I'm telling you, there is something more. Like there is years of DNAs in your blood and, DNAs of other explorers and everything coming together. It's actually quite amazing. Would you go to space? If you
Yes.
could?
Oh, I would love it.
What about,
Is that an offer?
is it space or is water and going cave diving? What's like?
I think space is
space more.
There's something about looking back. There's something about the enormity of it. There's something about the finality of it. There's something about the fact that we're not really meant to be in it, but it's where we come from.
Isn't it really? Like Antarctica or the North Pole or those places that are like as close as it can get of feeling not out of in this world? Like, did they give you that feeling?
I think so. I think Antarctica and the Arctic, particularly Antarctica, because there's never been a human population there. The Arctic, you have the Inuit, you have the Sami, you have those groups who manage to live in that environment. But Antarctica, coldest, highest, windiest, driest.
You could be another planet.
It could be another planet. It's the closest you can get to space.
There's a lot of space medicine and space work that is done in Australia, in Tasmania, that is all related to medicine, Antarctica. The two things are so connected, and a lot of people also don't really understand the impact of going into space or even traveling to Antarctica on science, on discovery of what we learn about nature. You said something before that, humans, we go ahead, we forget, we readapt. I actually, Matt and I, we are always fascinated about how, do you know how the bees operate? Like 80% of all the bees in a beehive, they just do their work. They do the work. They wake up every day, they look for they produce the honey, they just, it's so well organized. It's 80-90% of it. And always 20%, 15% of the bees are completely wild. They wake up and they go long distances. Most of them, they don't come back. Some of them, they come back and they found something amazing for the generation to come from that beehive. So in every group and species, there is this. There is a small percent of the population that goes for discovery. It's just not humans. Yeah. It's also animals.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is something in the DNA in which there is a part of the population that is born with a bug.
I think that's absolutely right. And I mean, I think it was George Bernard Shaw said something about, all progress relies on as he said back then, excuse the gender inequity, he said all progress relies on the unreasonable man, because the reasonable one just goes along with the way society is.
The society going.
And just keeps, the unreasonable one says it needs to change. And they don't, and further to that, they say it needs to change. And not that someone should do it. I will do it. I think that's
gonna be me.
It's gonna be me that does it. And I think they are that small proportion of people who are prepared to push boundaries and to change things they don't like. And maybe the 80% of worker bees are like the
thing that the
majority of the population.
The work bees really struggle with the 20% of the bees. Like, you have seen me as an entrepreneur, a space geek, you as an explorer, is that even if you have this soul, it's not that everyone is jumping to you every day, giving you millions and millions to do your explorations. Like, you need to fight for each of them. You need to find a solution. It's just there is not an entity in the world that finances every single explorer that wanted to be out there. It's really hard. And most of the people think you're crazy till they say, oh, I knew he would do it. Like, I'm on his side. So that is constant. Like thousands of years ago and today, those different people are always seen as, okay, let's see what they are doing. Like, it could be nice, but why? Just when you achieve something, then they're like, oh, no, it makes sense. And it's incredible. And it's amazing. I don't understand why we do this. Like, in my world, we are trying to understand the subsurface of the world and giving new tools to explorers. And every time you bring a new tool to, people that are in the 80%, why do we need to change tools? Why do we need to do something different? Why we need to understand why? We have been evolving as humankind for thousands of years. Like if there were not people inventing the cars, we would be on horses right now.
Yes, that's right.
We'll not be on airplanes. Like, and sometimes you just come out with the next idea and everyone is like, no, doesn't make any sense. And it makes all the sense.
Yeah.
Why are we still fighting every one of those 20%? I don't understand.
Yeah. I think it's a natural kind of conservatism.
It's survival of the species.
Yeah. And people maybe don't know what they don't know. I think the ability to be able to imagine something completely new and take people on that journey. And in your own mind, you can see it very clearly. You've got a mind map of where you're going. That may shift a little bit, but you really understand how you get there is something you may have to keep on working on. But as long as you're one step ahead of the team who are looking to you for guidance, then you can make it work. But imagining something that isn't there yet is and with places like space and the Antarctic. I mean, Antarctica, I did a 90-day trip there. Every day was, as opposed to space, which is sort of, black, for want of a better description, this is just endless white.
A lot of white.
And, the sun never sets. It's a 90-day day in extreme conditions with danger and cold and frostbite and all of that sort of stuff. And you have to impose your own mental framework on your effort to convince yourself that, you measure your effort, that you can get through it. And there's no other framework there. That, like I say, the sun never sets. You don't have the end of a day. You're just in this endless void of.
Were you by yourself that time?
Well, it depends which trip.
Because you did many of them.
I've done quite a few trips on my own, and you just have to you have to have that frame that you can impose on it to make sense of it all, and that requires being able to see a future position that maybe other people don't necessarily see. I can see it. I can see it,
but it's hard when you actually are doing that, trying to create a framework, trying to get the path, and imagine if you have every day someone that whisper in your ear, this makes no sense. You shouldn't do that. And I'm pretty sure that some of the people say that to you, like, team, it's time to stop. Like you have achieved something. What do you have to achieve the next thing? So I'm sure there are people that are also worried about you. Do you know what I mean? They're like, oh my God, the next one is going to be the one when you don't come back,
Yeah.
Because I think it is quite normal, to have the fear also in the people around you. It is a curse seeing the future and relentlessly trying to reach it. It's magical.
It is.
But it's a curse in a sense, because you can't escape from it.
No.
You can't switch it off.
And you have to bring others along, providing them with the kind of evidence they need to see to keep them engaged and to see it, and just to keep them feeling confident it can be achieved. And that's really the role of leadership, isn't it? To sort of give everybody what they want to get them to still remain engaged in this whole journey with you. You want to bring them along with you, and not everyone can necessarily see that far off, as yet unrealized dream.
As long as they see you.
Yeah. And they if they can see the conviction with which you're moving towards it, they think, well, she sees it and I trust her.
Going that direction.
I'm with her. Wherever this is going, I'm with her, and that is real leadership. It's people coming in behind it and understanding that.
I love it.
You've got that vision.
And we need to hang in there. Tell me about Earth, because you're a big fan of Earth. And you're a big fan of nature, and you're a big fan of all the things you've seen, and you care about them. And this is a question I ask all the time. What in the past 30 years have you seen the world, and maybe more years even from the 7-year-old boy? Is the world changing? Like, are you worried about nature? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, look, going all the way back to the 7-year-old boy in Malaysia, I mean, I would sit in the back of the car with my parents going on trips, and we would travel through, oil palm plantations and rubber plantations, of which there were many in Malaysia. And I remember thinking really clearly, maybe not at 7, but 8 or 9, where's all the nature here? This looks to me like it's all man-made stuff, even though they're trees. So even then I had those fledgling kind of thoughts about
what is happening
where's
here?
the space for all the rest, it seems like a lot of this stuff, be driving for hours through these plantations. And so, I mean, I suppose the flip side of exploring remote places, particularly like the Antarctic, I mean, I've been 13 times over a period of quarter of a century. When you look at it in those terms, I have seen lots and lots of change. So although you see the beauty and you have wonderful experiences, and you also see fragility, and then you also see the human footprint, even in some pretty remote places. I mean, when I went to South Pole, the first 47 days, I didn't see any sign of humanity anywhere, not even a vapor trail of an aircraft in the sky. And it was the most unbelievable experience to go for such a period of time without seeing anything. But most of the time, you see some evidence somewhere of humanity. So to me, it's really taught me that our footprint is very, very large. I'm worried about the planet. I mean,
have you seen a change? So, what's the biggest change that you see in Antarctica in all the expedition that you have done? Not a lot of people understand the changes that are happening in the North Pole or in Antarctica. How do you describe them?
Well, I've been to the Arctic 5 times. The thing about the Arctic is it's just the inverse of the Antarctic. So you can go to islands in Canada or you can go to Greenland, and there are big ice caps on land. But as you know, the Arctic is an ocean, a frozen ocean at the top of the world. It's 15 million square kilometers in size. And it's surrounded by kind of Russia and Canada if you look at the world from above.
From up.
But Antarctica is a 14 million square kilometer place. And it's a continent surrounded by ocean. And, I've with 2,050 meter thick ice over the whole of that 14 million square kilometers, 2Ks thing.
It's massive.
To say that, going to the pole and out the other side, 90 days on foot, I saw change would be lying, because there's so much thickness of the ice beneath you. You just have no reference points. But when you're on the edges of Antarctica, or you're doing Shackleton's journey, or you're doing Mawson's journey, or anything around the coastal edges of Antarctica, you see the massive retreat of the ice sheets and the glaciers. I've been to the same places 10 times over 20 years. I've seen huge change. And in Shackleton's journey, when I reached the same subantarctic island as he did, South Georgia, he was there 100 years before I was. But for him, he had these 3 massive glaciers to cross. I only had 2 because the other one is now a lake.
It was gone. It was water.
It's gone. And the journey is probably more dangerous now because of all the crevassing. For him, there was probably more snow.
Yeah. It was smoother.
Those glaciers were a little bit more intact.
100 years he did it, 100 years ago?
Yeah, he did it. He did it just on the eve of the First World War. So he did it sort of 1914 to 17 was the...
100 years is tiny time. I mean, it's big for us because it's a lifetime, but for this planet, it's...
The whole of human experience has happened really since the last ice age, 12,000 years ago. Everything that we hold dear and think are the way that things should be done, and this works, agriculture works. It's really one long experiment where we haven't got enough data really to make a decision either way. And I think we're now starting to see that the meddling that we've been doing over a long time... We were always probably taking more than we put back. Just we didn't realize it. We thought we were operating sustainably, but maybe we just...
we still are, so we are not there yet. The reason I like space, and the reason I work in this industry is because I feel it's just so beautiful when you see from the top, and it gives you the ability to monitor. You can't change something that you don't know. You can't change something you don't measure. Like all these data sets and points that you're telling me, and what we do in minerals, it's just an effort to try to measure and change a little bit our footprint. Like, if my contribution to humanity could be that we go to other planets and we don't do the same, it would be a big contribution. I love humans. Humans are smart, are capable, are clever. Not all of them, but most of them are really fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But we go so fast.
Yeah.
we go fast. We innovate fast. We are so savvy. We don't think about consequences in depth. Sometimes we don't have the tools to understand the consequence because the consequence are a little bit longer scale time that the reward of doing something. But I love Earth.
Yeah,
Earth is just beautiful.
I'm with you. I mean, those the view back of the blue marble in space. I mean, it really.
Oh.
And Carl Sagan, I think it was saying that every single battle and relationship and
that disappeared.
It all happened on that one
little thing
hanging.
Like everyone in his life hanging,
probably hanging in space, and it's totally remarkable. I remember with one of the JFK speeches, he said. The great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was once asked, "Why do you climb it?" And he said, because it is there. And space is there. And we're going to climb it. That's what Kennedy said. And I just thought that was so powerful.
And he's, and he's the same. Why do you go to Antarctica? Because it's there. I've interviewed cave divers. Why do you go? Because they're there. It is so beautiful. But you're working now a lot about protecting and defending this environment. What is success look like for the next 20 years for you?
Well, I mean, look, I've been on two journeys for a long time: the literal one, and then the personal one. And it's what we've been talking about. But the personal journey is, pushing your boundaries, understanding more about who you are, what your relationship with this place is. But you also start to distill all the expedition leadership lessons you've learned over a long time of doing this stuff and think, actually, they're just as applicable to the environmental issues we're facing as the next expedition. Expeditions, you have a goal, you work back from that goal with what you think is required to achieve it. You've got a motivated group of people. They're all different. You've got to apply emotional intelligence to get them to pull together. You've got to break down the total into small pieces. You've got to look positively at problems. All of that stuff is as applicable to dealing with climate change as it is with planning the next expedition. Okay, climate change is a bigger issue,
but doesn't matter.
It's same principles.
Doesn't matter.
Same principles.
And also what you said before, like one step at a time. We conquer a little mountain and now we go to the next one. And we go to the next one. It's going to be a series of conquerors that reach the big picture. Like, I'm pretty sure, like in my life or in your life, you never, when you started the first journey or you started the first expedition, you never thought, I'm going to do that one for 90 days. No, like, yeah, probably, but let's just go to the next one. And it's really quite fascinating now watching you fight for this planet and all the little things that are, one after the other, like got this battle and this battle.
Yeah.
It's much easier when you can go in the middle of nowhere by yourself, but when you need to bring on board politicians and countries and people and public, that's tough.
It is. You've just got to understand what works for the person. You want the path of least resistance with the person whose behavior you're seeking to change or engage. I think, what is it that works with that person to get them to want to be part of this journey with me? It's probably not the same reasons as I'm
but there's something.
But there might be something. And it's like, without being too corny here, you look at an iceberg, 2 points of an iceberg up on the surface, they seem a long way apart, but below the surface, they're probably joined.
You just need to find where they're joined.
You've just got to find that common ground with someone and the thing that works for them. And then you can start to sell the idea to them. And look, expeditions have taught me, you break down the total into small pieces, you celebrate the successes, and you control what you can. They're the three key messages. You don't worry about the other stuff. You control what you can, and you don't allow the enormity of these big challenges to sort of put you off or to overwhelm you. You keep focused on the bit that you
can control. The next step.
And you block out the rest, and you trust the process, and you...
But I can tell you that... reversing climate change seems impossible, but it's not. There are many small and big things that we can do. There are many, many people around the world that are very intentionally working on it. Not a lot of those people have the strength and resilience that you have. So if someone can do it...
I think I can easily talk about the negatives because I remember, like you, probably remember numbers as well, and I can easily talk about all the negative numbers. But you think that, you know, a third of our carbon footprint is just the energy for heating, lighting, and cooling houses.
No.
8% of our global carbon footprint is food waste. And I think that the 100,000 EVs that Australians bought last year, using vehicle-to-grid technology that already exists, if we plug them in, we could power New South Wales and the ACT. Those sort of things give me tremendous confidence.
Yeah, because they're big numbers and the technology is close.
Yeah.
And it can happen.
It's very close. What we mustn't do is think, well, I'll just keep going as normal because the technology will save me down the line.
That doesn't work this way.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, is the important things. A lot of people wants to never be first and second, and technology will come. But technology also needs to be used to improve. Like, technology doesn't appear and it works. Technology needs to be integrated and fail a little bit and being integrated and be, it's so hard to convince people to adopt technology. It's so hard to convince people to use new tools. It's so hard. Yeah. It's everything so hard. But, you know, hard is what motivates us.
Yeah, it is, you know, and look, the technology is sort of agnostic. It's what you use it for. It's like your technology is going to be used for finding the minerals we need to build the renewable energy revolution. I think that's fantastic, you know, but you've got to show people that this is the vision, or to explore space and
save our
liquid on the moon and allow us to explore. So it's about showing people what the technology is going to be used for. I think with the environment, people are fearful of technology taking away from them. They think that communication will all be done remotely. A driverless car will, you know, everything will be.
Yeah, it's the fear of the 80%. You know, it's fear that 80%, and it's what you were saying before. Like, you know, with a compass versus a GPS, is my expedition going to be better or worse? Like, you know, I think it could be really much better. You know,
I can definitely say it's better with a GPS.
Okay, that's what I mean. Like, you know, and of course, you want experience in that as it was, but new tools get humanity ahead. We can get closer. You know, we can get closer. So if in 20 years I build this rocket ship to go to the moon, you're coming.
Oh, I'm coming. Yeah, I'm on it. I'm fascinated by space, and I've had lots of time to think about it, because when I travel across Antarctica, I thought I'm just a person traveling across an ice cap of a small planet orbiting around a not particularly significant sun on a spiral arm of a moderately sized galaxy somewhere in this massive universe of ours. And, you know, and you're always thinking in those terms. You're thinking on the largest of scales. The opportunity to look back on Earth would be
unbelievable.
For me. Yeah.
Listen, the world is very close to bring everyone there. Like, I think Katy Perry went there, so me and you, we can get there soon. You know, I'm excited about
If Katy Perry can do it, I can do it.
If Katy Perry can do it, we can do it. Okay. And the reality is that we can open this to everyone. We can open this to everyone, and we can open space to everyone. Maybe we don't want to open Antarctica to everyone, but I think the more and more we support each other, that 20%, not even a 20% is needed to make changes for this world. It's 1%, but a good 1%. So
yeah, and I think it'll encourage environmentalism. There was a guy called Owen Garriott who went up on Skylab, the Skylab mission in whenever that was, the 70s or 80s with NASA, and then his son became a very wealthy guy, and he paid to go up himself into space.
Because it's a generation.
He compared what he saw, because Skylab looked down at Earth rather than out into space. And so his father had seen how Earth looked back then, and then he looked at it 30 or 40 years later. And the change made him really realize just how quickly we need to act to save Earth. And so I think people seeing it,
I know,
will make them realize how much we've got to cherish it and protect it and how fragile it is.
You know, we are very, 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 very lucky. I am very, very lucky to know you, and we are very, very lucky as humans to see what you've done with your life. And but I think the best is yet to come. So I'm really, really keen to see, you know, what you achieve in the next 20 years, because, man, you're a special humankind. And I think this planet and all the people in this planet should thank you for, you know, keeping yourself safe and keep going and fighting the fears and looking at the wind and finding your route, because you are the inspiration for all of us. Eh? Thank you,
that's very
Tim.
kind. Quite a compliment.
Thank you so much for participating to Beyond Discovery, the podcast, and being with Tim. I've got goosebumps, and I want to go to Antarctica that I've never been. Hopefully, we'll be there soon.